All right, welcome to the Sensitive and Neurodivergent podcast. I am guest host Carol Roesler, and I am here recording live inside the Sensitive Empowerment Community, which is a beautiful, safe place where people can come all over the world to shine their light and share their sensitivities and feel safe and included and welcomed. And there is no one better in the world to demonstrate that for us, to demonstrate what it's like to be an empowered empath, an empowered sensitive person shining their light, than my very special guest, Dr. Judith Orloff. Welcome so much. Welcome to you, Dr. Orloff.
Thank you. I've been looking forward to being here.
Oh, we are so happy to have you. And I'm sure everyone in here is a super fan like I am. But for those listening on the podcast that may not be familiar with your amazing work, Dr. Orloff is a New York Times bestseller. I shared with her right before we started that her book, The Empath Survival Guide, absolutely changed my life. That was back in 2018. And if there are empaths listening and parents of little empaths, her book, Thriving as an Empath, every day there's a special message to read. I think that'd also be great to share with your children. Those are some of the many gifts she's given to the world. And she also is a psychiatrist and an empath. And we are here to celebrate that she has created something so magical. Her book for sensitive children is called The Highly Sensitive Rabbit. It's going to be out into the world on October 7th. She's got it holding up there. I cannot tell you, I was gifted an advance copy so that I can infuse myself with this. And I was telling her before we started recording, I had those empath kind of chills. I cried and I wept, and I felt so connected to this beautiful little sensitive rabbit that is the main character. So, Dr. Orloff, will you share a little bit about Aurora and how you felt called to create her? And just anything you'd like to share about her and the creation of this beautiful book.
Yeah, so one thing about Aurora, and she's the rabbit, is that she loves the moon. You
Oh,
know, she loves looking up at the moon. And just to kind of tell you a secret, um, Aurora is my nickname as an adult.
oh,
So this is my story in the form of a rabbit. Um, as an animal, I have a very deep connection with animals, as many empaths do.
yes.
And so I wanted to write this children's book, which isn't really a children's book because it's for adults too, to really honor the sensitivity within us and not be ashamed of it and not hold it back and not let it, stop us from doing anything, but to become really empowered, with ourselves. And Aurora was being bullied and shamed by her brothers and sisters and called a crybaby. And why don't you strengthen yourself? Why don't you get more tough? I don't want to play with you. So it was terrible. And this was her journey to empowerment and how she met other animals who taught her how to honor her sensitivities and who understood her. So she was able to have a community, the javelina, who came to her and said, you need to talk to a like-minded person. It's so important that we're not alone. And like this call, it's so important that we have each other, or the wren who said sometimes you just need to fly away and have some alone time. And so the young Aurora was given tools, which is so important. When I grew up, I had no tools. I was shamed and for my sensitivities, and you're overly sensitive. What's wrong with you? You'll never survive in the world. And my parents told me to never mention my abilities again at home when I was growing up. So I couldn't express myself at all. And I just would go off by myself, or with my animals or looking up at the moon. And so I could connect with something that really was meaningful to me. But the other children, I used to have one best friend, and I liked it that way. I didn't like being around a lot of kids. And so I think that's common for sensitive children, that sometimes they like one, none, a small group. I mean, whatever you like is the best. You choose how many people you want to be around, as each person is different. But no, Aurora didn't have any friends in the beginning because nobody could really understand her. but she came into her power. So it's a story of us, of all of us, coming into our power and overcoming shame and bullying.
Oh, absolutely. And I mean, I could spend hours going over every page what the words meant. It was so impressive to me how you use this disparity of words. Each word is so precious, and the message that's conveyed. And then when you combined it with the illustrations, just take you right into the desert. And I lived for 6 years in the Palm Springs area, and I knew all the flowers and the plants you were sharing, and the little creatures. And at the end of the book, Dr. Orloff's made this beautiful little guide for children about showing pictures of the different animals in the book and the plants, which I thought was so loving too. And I loved when you mentioned about Aurora's connection to the moon, when she said that it made her find peace to look up at the moon. I mean, I felt like you wrote the book for me. I mean, this was just so beautiful. My very first word was moon. My dad's, when I was little, we used to go out, look at the moon, and I wore my selenite for you because Selene, of course, is the goddess of the moon, and I wanted to bring that in to celebrate how Aurora loves the moon too. And do you think that the reason that you, as Aurora, as a little child, and myself, and I know so many of us are so connected to the moon, is because when we look up, it's so expansive, and the magical stars and all, and you feel like you belong even though it's so far away. Do you think felt that, or could you share with us how you felt and Aurora feels about the moon?
I've always felt that she's been a companion of mine, and that I now at this point I do certain meditations on the full moon and
Yes.
the new moon, just to center my energies. It's a very nice time to meditate if you're meditators, and Aurora is just looking for connection, as we all are, and looking for the right connections, not the wrong connections. We want to really have somebody who understands us, and we could be with them and go, I get it. I understand where you're coming from. And that makes so much of a difference when you didn't have it as a child. And so many children, it's not only they don't have it, a lot of children are brought up in abusive, chaotic, narcissistic homes. So they get hurt and harmed as children. So it takes a while as adults, if you're lucky enough to find support, such as in this community,
Yes.
to really come back together and see who you really are and realize none of those voices were true. They had no idea about you, they didn't. And they were just very mean. There were a lot of mean kids at school. If you're sensitive and you tend to go in a corner and you don't want to, go off with all the I was never with the popular crowd, you
No,
know.
me neither.
And they would all, but I remember seeing them on the upper patio, where all the kids went, and I was like the lower patio somewhere by the auditorium, and I never wanted to go and be with them, but I still felt out of it. And the moon and the stars and the universe, I used to have fantasies that someone would come and take me away,
Mm,
to a place where I really belonged.
yes.
I wanted to belong, I wanted to connect, and I did with some kids, but not most of them, unfortunately.
Because I think, don't you feel like that a lot of us, because I also was raised in a very chaotic situation. I was adopted into a family. There was a lot of mental illness. I tried to look back with compassion for that, but it was exactly what you said. My only companions were my cat that was so loving, and going out to look at the moon. And I, like you, at school, I didn't fit in with any of the other kids. And I think a lot of us, we're hiding. We're all told, I was told the classic thing, get a tougher shell, and then that no one ever explains well, how do you do that? But what's so wonderful about your book and what you're doing to empower parents and teachers and librarians and children's therapists to see, I love how you talk about and you infuse into the book that all of our sensitivities are our superpowers. There's nothing to be ashamed about, and people are misunderstanding if they're shaming sensitive children. So I'd love to have you speak on that a little bit more about where you think this comes from, this need, this chronic misunderstanding to shame sensitive children, and how, I'd love to hear in your own words about how each child's sensitivities really is a superpower. That's the way you described it in that beautiful newsletter you wrote for parents.
Yeah, yes. Well, sensitive children, it is a superpower. And I think this kind of horrible macho, you're strong if you have force, and you're weak if you're sensitive.
Yes.
And I've been interviewed a lot on that topic because of what's been going on in the world and how
Yeah.
it has been touted as the worst thing that ever happened to humanity, which
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
crazy, but I try to understand their point of view. And what they see, I think, is that sensitive people are weak and they feel that we're just pushovers and we'll do anything, that we don't know how to set a boundary, we'll give all our money away to bleeding hearts. And it's just not true.
No.
They don't understand that sensitive people must learn how to center themselves, set boundaries, practice self-care, and really build up their self-esteem, in order to be able to say, no, we're not pushovers. I'm not a pushover.
No, you are so strong. You are my role model. I love how you model that for all of us.
Well, now I just want to point out that it was a process, a healing process for me, my whole life, really, my whole life. And it's still what I love about this path so much is it continues to grow and it continues to get deeper. But in terms of the public and what they see or what their misconceptions are, is that we're just pushovers and have no common sense, and we'll just bend anyone who bleeding heart. And that's not true. It's so not true. It's a horrible misconception. But however, I think that's the reality in terms of the low emotional intelligence that it is assessing sensitivity.
Yes, absolutely. And one of the things that moved me so much in your book was the way you were able to show that even though Aurora felt overwhelmed at times, and I definitely want to come back to that, what some of the tips you have for children and for parents to help children that are overwhelmed. But one of the most amazing things you were able to convey was that picture. There's an illustration of her down in the rabbit warren with her brothers and sisters, and the coyote is outside howling, and you were able to share with the children that are reading it, and so that their parents can understand that that was very uncomfortable for Aurora, because she could feel all of their discomfort, all of their fear about the coyote, and all the feelings they were having. And that's something I think that a lot of people can't understand unless they are also sensitive, unless they're also neurodivergent or empaths, that we aren't just feeling our own sensitivities to everything around us, the good things and the scary things, but that
That's
we're feeling
right.
others. So please speak on that for us.
That's right. Aurora cared about the coyote.
She did. She wondered if he was lonely. That gave me chills, Dr. Orloff. Beautiful. Why don't you just share a little bit about that for those that haven't had the pleasure yet to read the book?
Well, this was before Aurora really came into her own power and came to see her sensitivities as a wonderful gift and her intuition as a wonderful gift. She would care about all the other animals. She would, if she heard the coyote howling, she would care about what the coyote was feeling and if the coyote was okay in this big storm that came through the book. And so she was concerned about other animals. That empaths have a natural feeling of love and concern for their fellow beings. It's just something we do,
Yeah.
and tend to give too much and get drained from that or get overwhelmed, like she did with so much going on in terms of her trying to manage all these feelings that were coming through. And I think children, this is what they experience. They oftentimes, highly sensitive children, where too much is coming in too fast, and they can get overwhelmed very easily, and they don't have tools to stop. Just take one breath. I can't tell you how useful that simple technique is. Just stop, take a breath, and try and reduce stimulation. That's the first order of the day when you're feeling overwhelmed. I do that for myself. If I'm overwhelmed and I'm about to say something I don't want to say because I'm like,
Right.
I try not to get to that place, but I just want to say occasionally, I do. And I just, for me, luckily, I have a room I could close the door and go to my meditation space and just take a breath and bring myself back. Because when children are overwhelmed, they have tantrums and they start crying. And then if the parents are highly sensitive, or even the child screams, just go through the body, it's they're meant to go through the body so that they get tended to. But they're really intense. If any of you have heard child screams, like, oh my God, my neighbor had a child and screaming his lungs out. And I had really, that's what they do. It's just part of, it's to a highly sensitive parent, or it's really intense. It really knows how to cut through all your protection and just get you.
Yes, yes, yes. You always talk about us imagining ourselves in a bubble of light, which helps me so much. But when it is a child that's in pain, especially if it's your own child, but any child, we all care so much. It does, it comes right through. There's almost no amount of protection we can put because it goes right into our heart, and of course, none of us want to see suffering.
Right, but it's when I hear it outside my door, I close the door.
Oh, you have to. You have to.
Oh,
Any,
yeah.
all those kinds of things. Yes. I wanted to really, there was another theme in the book that was so important to share about, and is that sensitive children, and Aurora shares how she does this, and I love how she meets the animal friends that help her with this too, like the wren. But needing quiet, alone time is fine. It's absolutely fine. And it was something that was really important in the Adventures of Nico, the highly sensitive dog that Julie Bielen and I wrote. We have a scene in there or an illustration of them all lying on their back, looking up at the clouds after they've come through the portal to this sensitive, quiet place. But the reason I put that in there was because I'll just share quickly that when my daughter was in kindergarten, I got a call from the school, and they said they were very concerned. And I wonder what's happened. And their concern was that after she finished lunch, she was going into the little library nook that I had helped create for the kids, and she was sitting on a beanbag reading books. And that's what was bothering them, because she wasn't out jumping on the stage and throwing Legos around and running around the playground with the other kids. She wanted to read. And there's something struck in me. Because when I was little, I used to go hide in the library in elementary school. I didn't want to play all the flag football and soak 'em where they kick the ball at you and all that. I just wanted to be in the library, and I volunteered to dust the books so I could stay in there with them. And so I think that's something that is so, so important in that message you're giving in the book. And so can you share a little bit about that too? Why is it so important for little children and all of it, even us adults that are sensitive, to have our quiet space?
Well, the sensitive children in particular need it. Other children may not need it as much, but they need it if they get overwhelmed. But
Right.
sensitive children need to go off in their imagination. They're so creative, they're so intuitive, and they need to have time with their books, with their imaginary friends. They need to stare out at nothing, looking out at the sky.
Yes.
They need to just marvel at the wonder of the world, and the way they do it so quietly often. They might not verbalize it, but they're looking. You could see them just taking in the environment. And where parents make a mistake is that they try and overbook them with play dates, which
Yes.
is something that they want to do, really. I mean, if they find a child they can resonate with, they're all in. But with just general play dates, it doesn't really work that well unless they enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely. And there seems to be a culture especially in America, of busyness, of feeling
Busy.
that they must have all these after school activities. And you're looked at strangely if you don't have them signed up for the soccer team or the softball group, or everyone is going to ballet, but your child doesn't want to, they want to read or whatever it is. And I think that's so important that it's amazing that we are starting to have a little bit of literature now, thanks to your Aurora book. And that was the reason that Julie and I were trying to create books that we didn't have as children, because children need to see that reflected in what they're reading and what they're seeing. I have like this dream that they'll put a neurodivergent, sensitive empath character on Sesame Street. I thought I'd just throw that out there because I think,
Oh,
yeah, I think the kids really need to see that. And I think that it's just really, really important to understand that different is okay, right? And I wanted you to share a little bit about, I love that you picked the character of the skunk to teach Aurora. I laughed out loud. The skunk teaches Aurora about boundaries. So would you share a little bit about that and why boundaries need to be taught even at the youngest age?
Yes, it's a vital form of self-care. We can't survive without boundaries. There's no way you're going to be able to feel healthy and happy without learning how to set boundaries, because there's so many areas where you could be drained by people, by events, by looking at the news for too long, by listening to conversations in the schoolyard and that were upsetting to you. If you linger too long, as opposed to, I'm going to take a break now. I'm going to go off by myself to replenish. I'm going to set a boundary with that kid. In terms of bullies, as
Yes,
bullies attack highly sensitive, different kids.
yes, they do.
So those kids need to be educated, and to tell somebody who could come in and help them in the school, and zero tolerance for bullying. You need to rally people. You can't just leave them there. It's
No.
horrible just to leave. That happened to my partner's grandson, and it was just uh, it was bad. So he went into homeschooling, but the bullies can be really vicious, and it
Oh,
just breaks my heart. I'm starting to cry just to
yes.
think about them, but they're there, and they're a reality, and so we need to learn how to help our children deal with that by summoning. Parents need to be involved. They need to come in, and they need to have a voice. The schools have to have a zero tolerance for bullying. I had a patient who lived in Europe, and her kids were, going to the early schools, and she said they don't have that zero tolerance over there for bullying. So she's
Wow.
kind of left without any support. She can support
Oh,
her own children, but we're lucky that we have evolved to a certain extent with regard to bullying. But you don't want to do nothing. You have to do something to protect your child from that. And bullies just go after people who are crying or overly sensitive and not sticking up for themselves. So somebody's got to stick up for this child.
oh, absolutely. And I applaud your partners and the grandson and the family for doing the homeschool. My own child, I pulled her out. We did third through ninth grade homeschool, and part of that was because of bullying, and part of it was because I needed to create an environment for her to thrive. I mean, I
Right.
always laugh that she taught herself because she has this brilliant, she's just an amazing empath, an amazing neurodivergent. Her brain soaks up information. She loves to read books. She loves to just take in stuff. She teaches me things all the time. So I basically was just assembling things for her, but more important, creating a safe container. Because trying to take sensitive children and put them into, like Julie always says in her other podcast, we don't fit into a box, into the neurotypical box, or just a box that was created by people that don't understand sensitivities. And when you were talking about the bullying, I just briefly, when I was in third grade, I was bullied the whole year. And I can remember my teacher, who I adore. I loved my teachers because it was different than being at home, where it was very chaotic and didn't feel safe. And I loved my teacher. But she came up to me while this bully the bully would come. We'd go to lunch, and I don't want to relive it for everyone, but she was sitting right there with me eating my lunch. And the teacher asked me, "Are you okay, Carol? Are you okay?" And I couldn't get any sound out. And see, that wasn't appropriate when I look back as an adult for the teacher to ask in front of the bully if you're okay, because you don't have any voice. So we need to empower the parents and also all the school administrators, the teachers, any caring adult that a child can feel safe to go to help have a voice for them.
I agree wholeheartedly. And it's just important to gather the people who can help together and make a decisive effort to cut this off. Because if you don't, the bullies do horrible things. I had one parent who the bullies took the child and put child in a sort of a hole or a box and closed the. It just
Oh,
these. I'm not going to go into it because all you have are going to get very upset with me if I get into these horrible images, and I don't want to get into them. But
oh,
it's
but you're sharing from a place of empowering people to stand up for these children that don't have a voice because they're in the middle of it. They're in the middle of the overwhelm from that kind of negative
Absolutely.
energy.
And as a psychiatrist, when I'm working with parents and children who are sensitive, I take that very seriously in terms of my role as an educator to, if they're like, I don't know what to do, it's so horrible. And they don't think about, being an activist and going in there, but very gently and, sensitively, I do, share with them, this is what is necessary now. And any reluctance you have, let's work on it, because you're going to have to heal this. Is you've got to go get in there, and do something about this.
Oh,
And
absolutely. And I
yeah.
love the word that you use, the word gentle. I'm sorry to interrupt you. I just love that word because you show in all of your work how, and in yourself, you model for us how you can be very strong, but also gentle and wise and open to love, the energy of love always. And that is such an incredible thing to role model for everyone.
Yeah, thank you. As people often misinterpret me as, I don't know if the word is soft or they assume I wouldn't set a strict boundary, some people. And I'm very good at setting boundaries, and I do it. I don't get into a combative stance. I just say, I'm so sorry, I can't do that, or no, but I say it in a gentle way. You don't have to be mean when you set a boundary. And you don't have to be super, strong when you set a boundary, because you could just do it whatever your style is, however your style is. You can practice with friends. No, I'm sorry, I can't do that. Or I'm going to need to stick up for my child. I hear that you think it's not a good idea, but I need to do this. To be able to set up boundaries in your life, but to say it in such a way that people are taken by surprise, as they often think of boundaries as rigid and hard. And
Yes.
it's not the way I expressed it. And that's the same with Aurora in the book. She learned to say what her needs were in Aurora style, in her own way. And I just want to emphasize for all of you, you each have your own way. Maybe it is to be a little stronger than I am. I don't turn up the volume because I don't need to, because I'm not, I say it once, I'm not going to keep repeating it. I'm going to just say, this is what's important. And this is what I've got to do. Sorry, I don't want to belabor it. I don't like going around and round in circles. It's just not a good form of communication for me. So I cut it off. And when you set a boundary, that doesn't mean that you're having a confrontation with anyone. It's just putting up your particular no.
I love that. I have a dear friend who's here in the community here with us today, Fiona. I'm going to give her a little shout out. She calls it our sacred no. And I love that. It's a sacred no because you're taking care of
Right.
yourself, your empathic body. You think of that like a temple that you're protecting, right? Now we're talking about protecting little children, sensitive little children. And I would love for you to talk for just a minute about, or as long as you like, about what you were saying before we started the recording, that it just moved me so much that you said that the children, the sensitive children, they're here to change the world for us. They are here, and we are here to lift them up and protect them so they can go out and change the world and raise it with their light.
Absolutely. And the reason I wrote this book now, and I wrote it, by the way, with Jennifer Adams, who's a wonderful co-writer, and Katie Tanis is the illustrator. Her
Oh,
pictures
beautiful picture. Oh,
so poignant. I think empaths will love it.
oh, you will all love it. I felt swept into that magical desert with Aurora. Beautiful.
Yeah, but Aurora gets strong. She gets strong, and your style of expressing your no is very important. But you don't want to keep repeating yourself. If someone doesn't get it, you could just say, we've already discussed this, and I can't, I'm sorry, I can't do it. But you say it in such a way that people feel like they're getting a yes, because you're giving off heart energy, and these children are going to save the world. I truly believe that as we go off in our ways and our journeys, the children are going to inherit the earth. And
Yes.
the reason sensitive children are so important is because they understand the power of the earth, and they understand the need to protect the earth. And whereas a lot of people these days don't.
Absolutely.
which is
Absolutely.
just, insane, but they don't. But the children will. And they don't have to have a big debate about it. I mean, it's just, I love the animals. I love the earth. I want to protect the earth, period. It's not a big intellectual debate over whether this or whether that. No, you just protect the earth, period. I mean, like many indigenous cultures do, where the
Oh,
earth is just a
yeah.
part of the spiritual practice and life. Every breath, it has to do with being thankful to Mother Earth. But these children know that already. They're not going to be hurting the earth. They're going to be protecting the earth. And so that's why we need to protect our children now. And that's why we wrote the book now. For me, to be able to give tools and just put the idea in parents' head or teachers' head that this is what we need to do. These children are our saviors. There's a saying, in the Bible, the meek will inherit the earth.
Oh, yes.
I think meek is not a good word,
Oh,
but I think it refers to that wisdom. I think it refers to the children, the sensitive children, that those who are not loud and flamboyant and pushy will inherit the earth. Those who are, quiet and reverent.
I absolutely, I love that. And I love in there's a image that you created that was so great where Aurora's mother is worried about her because she's not playing and rough and tumble and running around with her brothers and sisters. She wants to go off by herself. She wants to be quiet. Like we talked about how that important that is. And then she's out there trying to do it. And your illustrator created that feeling that we've all felt of just too much going on around us. And then I love the fact that as she goes and off on her own, she's encountering one-on-one, which is of course every empath's favorite thing is just one deep conversation with one loving person. It's like the best thing ever, like we're having here. Um,
That's
and each of the animals gets their own little moment to shine. Oh, thank you for showing. Look at these illustrations. Aurora is so beautiful, but the nature around her is equally beautiful. It's just amazing how it's all woven together. I mean, just looking at the pictures themselves is going to give everybody those really great kind of empath chills. They're beautiful, but I love how each of the animals that she comes across, not her brothers and sisters who misunderstood her and bullied her and teased her, and even her mother who misunderstood her, but the other animals, each one, you've given them a special, unique gift. They teach Aurora a lesson just by being who they are. And so I love that. And can you share a little bit about why you chose animals? You shared about Aurora and your connection with rabbits and her being so sweet and sensitive, but the other animals are like perfect. Each one's message is perfectly suited to them. I love it so much.
Yes, well, I wanted to write a book without any humans in it.
Mhm.
Just have animals for once, and
Yes,
avoid all the problems that come in with human beings and
yes,
have animals and be in an animal world, to be in an animal world where animals communicate, which they do.
they do.
They do all this. Now, this
Yes.
is fantasy. They communicate with each other and they help each other. And so I wanted to just create this animals because empaths love animals. I think with kids, the message might get through more quickly with animals than
Yes.
with other humans. They're easier to deal with. And the empath children and the sensitive children more gravitate towards animals or the stuffed animal that they hug or are so close, like in the Velveteen Rabbit, which was one of
Oh,
my favorite rabbit books.
too, when it comes to life from being loved. It's so beautiful. The Velveteen Rabbit we're talking about. If you haven't read that book, it is so beautiful, everybody.
It's like I wanted to say I fashioned this book over on the old fashioned rabbit books that were made in the 20s and 30s.
Yeah.
They've been around for a long time, and the illustrations are beautiful. They're
Oh,
heartfelt, just gorgeous. They're like works of art. But whereas a lot of the rabbit books these days, the rabbit looks like an animated figure to me in
yeah.
so many of them. And I've never liked animation. It's just my thing. But I just didn't want an animated look to this book. I wanted just a regular, innocent, good look,
Oh,
goodness.
you succeeded. It is absolutely beautiful. And I was going to share that when Julie and I were talking about putting together our book, of course, Nico, her dog, her sensitive dog was our inspiration, but I wanted it all animals. She wanted it all animals. And then eventually we did add the one human best friend of Nico, which is Julie. When she was a little girl, that was her nickname, Juju, just like you had Aurora. And so she's there, but she's kind of like a guide, like a wise old soul sort of guide for Nico. But the whole idea that they could go through a magical portal to a world where it was a farm full of animals, it just opened up endless possibilities because, like you said, animals are so loving, they're so amazing, and each one of them is so unique and special to themselves, just like sensitive children are.
That's right. That's right. And I think I just saw a comment asking for the title of the book. And the book is called The Highly Sensitive Rabbit. This is the book I'm talking about.
Yes, it's beautiful. It'll be out on October 7th, and I was gifted an early copy so I could get ready for the talk, but you will be able to get it. And I know you can pre-order it on Amazon now because I've already pre-ordered copies for my daughter. I want to give one to my library where my husband tutors kids there. It's absolutely wonderful. So you can go straight to Amazon.com right now and get in order for it. And also you have it available on your website too, don't you, Dr. Orloff? Because her website is a wealth of information.
Yeah, I mean, that's, you can, all partake of the blogs and also my events. I'm having some Los Angeles events and I'm having some online events. So if you happen to be in LA, I'll be at Diesel Bookstore on October 12th, and that's in Brentwood. So I'm going out, and celebrating this rabbit.
I was really impressed because you're going to be in Santa Monica too at a Barnes and Noble, and you can go to her website and see all of the places she's going to be because what a treat to hear you reading it aloud or you talking about it in person is a gift to everyone. And I will be sure that in our show notes, I'm going to put the links to your website, the links to the book tour, and then she also has a newsletter that I love, which is so great. And then I'll put the links. I guess I should hold up for me and Julie. So we have The Adventures of Nico, the Highly Sensitive Dog. And then our second one in our trio of books just came out, Bedtime Bliss, to help parents with bedtime struggles and ways. Also, we've had a lot of adults that absolutely have loved the books and felt connected to the messages in the book. I have a friend that has two little boys that said, I got more tips for my own sleep as a mom than besides what I'm going to do for them from the Bedtime Bliss. And I know you mentioned this at the very beginning, Dr. Orloff, that these books are written technically for kids, but really they're for all of us to reparent ourselves as sensitive adults, things that we were missing when we were little. You mentioned that in your newsletter too. I'd love for you to share a little bit about that.
Yes, that's so well put. It's about reparenting ourselves and about reclaiming our inner child. That is like key to our survival. We don't want that the child was abused or the child was overlooked or neglected or traumatized, whatever happened in the childhood. That we need to find that little person and reclaim that little person and tell them we will never leave you alone again. You will never get hurt the way you were hurt. And it's called reparenting. Absolutely. But see, the thing is, that child will go with you everywhere. And you want to listen to that child. You don't want that child to rule your life when she gets upset or he gets upset. But you do want to have the child with you. And so everyone who comes to these events, I hope you bring your inner child with you, as I really want to meet her. It's like a safe place for all your inner children if you want that. And I love that. I love finding other people who I feel safe around their inner children, and we could connect, that they're not just these rigid adults all full of responsibility and work, that they're, filled with the joy of the inner child and the playful inner child that we all have. It's part of our growth. We need to, embrace our child. So it's like she goes with me everywhere, but I shift into my psychiatrist mode. I'm not in my inner child usually when I'm in psychiatrist mode, though something might get touched in me, with people. But we can shift into different aspects of ourselves. And this book, has given me a chance to really be in my inner child as I've been talking, all around about it. And it's really been fun. It's really because I feel a healing in myself. I don't feel what I felt as a child, where I felt so disconnected and, but loving the moon. And, I can connect with people and life and the world and helping others, and which is so important, in my work, being of service. And,
Yes.
it's different because I have grown up, I have evolved, and I'm a, mature woman now, and I help a lot of people. But I also, have little Aurora in there, who's just alive and well.
Oh,
And it's most of the time, you know.
yeah, I love that though, because you gave me this wonderful image of like all of us, our inner child children are all playing together right now. They're all reading, the highly sensitive rabbit together. They're all enjoying, maybe one of our Nico books. Just the
Yes,
and the
yes.
joy is like a frequency, right? It's like something that when we tap into it, it is the frequency, it's the energy of the little child that is just their pure essence, that's just they're doing whatever it is that makes them happy. And that I think that's such a special message in the book too. It's so important to me and Julie with our books too, is that for children to be misunderstood, what brings them joy, what's their authentic expression of joy, should be treasured. And it's often misunderstood because maybe it doesn't look like anything else anyone has ever done, or it doesn't look like their siblings or the kids down the block, right? And so Aurora gets to be celebrated for being just who she is. And then she meets these other animal friends with their wisdom. And she could never be the javelina, and she can't be the wren, but they are being themselves beautifully. And then they help her. And she just gets to be Aurora, right?
Right, right. And she grows and she changes, and in the beginning, they called her a crybaby because she's true. She cried all the time,
Yes.
it was hurting. But as she began to learn to be empowered, that balanced itself a little bit. I mean, I'm all for crying, but there's a balance. Sometimes crying is just utterly painful. It's not a release to people. It's just utterly painful. And so it's about balance. It's how do we balance, our sensitive selves, with being in the world? How do we grow strong and confident like Aurora did, and how we all can do it with support? One thing she had, and a message of the highly sensitive rabbit, is that she got support. And we need support. It's too hard to do it alone. It's really hard, and we hurt a lot, when we're not being seen. And so you want to have the circle of hands holding each other, or even one person, one hand, just one hand to keep you afloat. It really makes a difference.
Oh, it makes such a beautiful difference. And I'm so grateful to every soul that's here with us right now and everyone in Julie's community, because I know when I came into that community in 2022, I didn't know any other empaths. I knew your book and I
Mhm.
felt empowered and connected and validated by your writing and your work. And I got everything you'd done, I gathered all around me. And it was like I just want to share that with you from my heart, that you were like my best friend there, my mentor, the mom I didn't have, all of those things wrapped into the materials you created that are so beautiful. But when you come in our community, it's just amazing. And we welcome anyone any sensitive person that's listening around the world that wants to find a kind, caring person to connect with, or many, to join this community, because it's like no other. There's no advertising, there's no discussion of anything other than celebrating our own light, our own gifts, and you find this connection, just like Aurora did. She goes out on her little walk and she goes through the desert, and she meets the skunk and he teaches her about boundaries, and she meets the wren who teaches her about, going off on her own, and she gets these chances to interact with other sensitive animal creatures that are so loving. And it's the same thing here. It was now I know five empaths besides you. I know five, and it's amazing. And I wouldn't have found them without this beautiful connection. So I know we're talking about children's books here and children, but I'd love if you could share for just a minute with us too. When we don't have to go into detail, but we all know that there's a very, very powerful and negative energy going on in the world. You touched on that before. A lot of us stay off the news and out of that and try to stay in safe places. When we have children in our life, whether we're parents, aunts, uncles, or we're teachers or whatever, and we have that kind of an energy going on, what can we do as adults, as caregivers, as role models to protect ourselves from that negative energy and be that really grounded place for them and model that for them?
You must not get swept up by the negative energy, and that's what empaths tend to do, is they look into the eyes of the beast and jump in, and that's not helpful. That is not helpful to do that, and to keep watching this event and that event and this event. And every time I go on the news, there's like something horrible happen, something
Oh, yes.
all bad all the time.
Yes.
So just realize that and try and limit your news intake. It just depending on how much you want to feel educated about what's going on and how much is just destructive. They're just, I suggest cutting it down. I know people who've stopped listening to the news entirely and they have no idea what's going on in the world because they just can't take it. That's another way to go, but my path has been more the middle path. It's more like, how do I stay here on earth, stay centered and grounded and connect, but not get deluged by the extreme negativity, and to always remember what values are important to you. Like for me, it's empathy and intuition and kindness and self-care. And that's what I want to focus on in my life. I don't want to get caught up in the dark. If there's an opportunity to help, I will tune into it and, see if I'm meant to do it. And I will, if it feels right, I will do it. If there's an opportunity to help, you have to tune in to see if it's okay for you. But I do not want to take on the angst of the world, and empaths can be emotional sponges, and children, you don't want to have them glued to the TV and hearing all this, you don't. It's not, you want them to be children. You want them to play. You want them to, talk to their imaginary playmates, and you want them to look up at the moon like we did.
Yes.
And you want to help the child stay a child. And what happens, unfortunately, with empath children is they're so understanding. If you've been around them, they're very understanding and they'll want to listen to you. So the parents end up going to them as therapists. I've seen that. And the daddies cry around them and the mommies are overwhelmed. Oh, this is so intense. You don't want to do that. That is not a good practice to make the little kids into a therapist, but they'll go there. A lot of them will go there naturally. But you want to be a role model. The thing with parents and the thing with friends of children and everyone they're going to look up to, you're role models. They're like little chickens, little ducks, and they model after their mother. So and friends and adults. So who you are is the most important thing to them. And if you can balance and model your values that are important, and you can stay straight with that during this difficult time that we're going on historically, that will help the children more than anything.
Oh, that's beautiful. And I know in the book you have that part where and everyone will see when they're reading it, but Aurora's area and neighborhood that she lives in, there's a natural disaster that happens, and then everything is in chaos. And what was so amazing was how you conveyed what so many of us would do. So she went off and was feeling the pain for all her neighbors and all the suffering and all that was happening in her little area. But then you showed all the children readers and us adults reading that she didn't stay frozen in that. That then she goes out, like you said, and she gets stronger by getting wisdom on how to take care of herself, how to protect herself. And then she can be Aurora in that beautiful desert environment. And just by doing that, she's spreading light and kindness and love. And that was just so beautiful. Was it important to you to put something? I mean, it was because it's in the book, but it wasn't a story that was just, oh, this rabbit is just so beautiful and wonderful, the end. You took us on a journey with her. I thought
Yes,
that
it was a journey through a very dark time where she lost her home.
yes,
And how she was without any place to go to, lost in the desert, in the rain, and
yes,
not what happened to her home and her family. And I live in Los Angeles, so we just went through that with the Palisades and people losing their
Oh,
homes. It is
horrible.
very tragic. It's so hard with all your stuff is gone. You know, all your stuff, all your photos, everything you love in the house is gone. So
Yes.
it's a similar challenge for her, you know, in terms of losing her home. And but how that intensity and that sorrow brought her to meet the other animals and reach out and to get help from them. So you can transform if you're going through something really hard, like losing your house or anything else.
Yeah.
It can turn to be something positive, not saying that losing your house is a good thing, but it's depending on how you deal with it, you can turn it into learning.
Yes, you and like you showed Aurora, she learned lessons through all of that that she'll carry with her forever. And then you
Yeah,
imagine when Aurora is a mother or an aunt, or maybe she goes on, teach other little rabbits or whatever she does, it's going to be incredible because of what she learned and then all the support she got from her animal friends.
that's right. And my dream is for this book to have, I just saw a vision as we were all talking, as we were talking,
Yes.
to see a circle of children in a library reading it and talking about it.
Oh, beautiful.
And then somebody commented on she was going to go to the library and buy a book. I don't know how you do that, but that's interesting. That
Okay.
you go to a library?
Maybe she meant, I don't know, maybe she meant that I was trying not to read the comments because I wanted to focus on you, but I know a lot of people want to donate the book. I'm going to donate your book to the school near us, and there's a library there, and they have kids from kindergarten through eighth grade at the school, and they need that book, even the older children, everyone. I think that your book it's timeless. It's for all ages of sensitive souls. I really do.
Right. Well, I love libraries. I mean, libraries are a refuge for sensitive people.
They are.
A lot of sensitive people flock to the libraries and just read in their bubble. And
Oh, it's wonderful. I still remember Miss Blanton, if she's still alive and listening in my library in elementary school, she'd let me come and clean in there, like I said, instead of going out for recess because I was scared and I didn't like it. But I loved the books. I can remember just getting totally lost, being taken to colonial. There were some books about a little girl in colonial time, and I just felt like I went through a portal with her into that because that's another thing that's so wonderful. So many, all sensitive people can get lost in a book or a song, a movie, sunset, something beautiful. We have that wonderful, it's a superpower, like you said. So I thought as we're getting ready to wrap up here, I'd love to have you share about how at which I agree with you 100%, that each person's unique sensitivity is their superpower.
it's totally your superpower because it's who you are. You don't want to run from who you are. You want to run and embrace who you are. You want to run toward yourself. And that's what we're all suggesting here, you know, and hopefully this book can help you to come closer to yourself and your inner child so you don't hate her. Because a lot of people, I have a patient, she hated her inner child. It was very painful for me to hear that, but it took a while for her to embrace. It took about 3 years. But we have our own time limit and a time schedule for everything. So some things you can't do right away. It's too painful. But it's a goal. It's a goal. And one way I suggest that you use this book is to pick a picture that you like, an illustration that you love, and meditate on it.
Oh, beautiful. Show us one. Show
Yeah. Yeah.
beautiful
Okay.
idea.
Okay. You could meditate on that one. Two rabbits talking.
Oh, beautiful.
The little Aurora with her mother. So, well, and see what comes up in you when you, whatever it is, to try and feel it from your heart. Let the book center you in your heart and open up your heart energy when you see these images.
Oh, that is beautiful. And I think that the children and their parents and all of us reading them, we can go back to those pages again and again for wisdom. It's truly, you've just created the most beautiful gift for the world, Dr. Orloff. Thank you so much for making this book, for sharing it with us. I'm so excited for people to get it into their home and into their hands. Again, it'll be available October 7th, but you can pre-order it on Amazon like I did. And you can go to Dr. Orloff's website, and in our show notes, we'll make sure we have all of the different resources to find Dr. Orloff's book tour, her website, the places she's going to be. And we look forward to having you back again here because your wisdom is treasured. There's a podcast, I'm going to put a link in the show notes. Dr. Orloff and Julie had a podcast together several years ago that was just amazing conversation that everyone should listen to as well. And I use your empath empowerment oracle cards every day. So I pulled a card for everybody. This is wisdom straight from you. So you get to hear you back to you again. But I pulled the Find Your Purpose card. And underneath it says, when you feel like you don't fit into this world, remember that you are here to create a better one. Your tender heart is a treasure. Yeah, I got goosebumps again. I love this one so much. I actually put this in the community a couple months ago because I don't think we can hear this enough. So thank you again.
I love cards. The cards are such a direct line to intuition.
Oh, her cards, I recommend her cards are beautiful and wonderful. And the illustration on those are beautiful too. Well, thank you so much for your time, your presence here. It's just the thrill of my lifetime to meet you in person and be able to thank you from my heart for all you've done for me and for everyone that's a
Oh,
soul.
thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Orloff.
All right. I thank everyone for your beautiful smiles and quality of presence. And I'm glad we had this time together.
We are too. It's such a gift. And we look forward to having you back again soon. And we wish you all the best luck on your wonderful book tour. Spread
Thank you.
light everywhere. Thank you so much. All right,
Thank you.
have a wonderful rest of your day. And thank you everyone for coming. And thank you all for listening.